Here to weigh in is Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett. He sits on the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee, and the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks for being here. Americans know that our economic and national security hang precariously in the balance because Ukraine and Taiwan are responsible for the advanced microchip semiconductor production that we rely on. But that's leading many Americans to ask who the genius was that thought this would be a great idea. Why don't we put all that critical national infrastructure at the doorstep of two of America's greatest enemies, China and Russia? Congressman, do you know who did that? And do you know if there are steps being taken to correct that?
No, I don't, but I suspect you could pretty much find it on Pennsylvania Avenue if whoever's pulling the president's strings at this time. You know, we have a White House that's been corrupted, obviously, with the infiltration of the communist Chinese into every section of our country, from our economics to our education, to our financial well-being. So the fact that I feel like our White House has been compromised by the Chinese through the president's son. I mean, you know, it's a criminal enterprise. If it had been Trump, they would have been marching down Pennsylvania Avenue demanding his head. But I don't know. It seems like the left wants to give him a Nobel Prize for his great work of giving the Ukrainians $100 billion of taxpayer money.
Yeah, it sounds like a DOJ, FBI problem as well. Let's switch gears here. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis boycotting NBC and its affiliates after left-wing host Andrea Mitchell lied about his opposition to teaching a certain curriculum about slavery in schools. She falsely claimed he was against teaching about slavery. This was her non-apology apology. Listen.
And a postscript. In my interview last Friday with Vice President Harris, I was imprecise in summarizing Governor DeSantis' position about teaching slavery in schools. Governor DeSantis is not opposed to teaching the fact of slavery in schools, but he has opposed the teaching of an African-American studies curriculum, as well as the use of some authors and source materials that historians and teachers say makes it all but impossible for students to understand the broader historic and political context behind slavery.
Wow. OK, this left-wing bias and dishonesty is rampant, as you know, Congressman, in the press. Yet a lot of Republicans continue to go on these networks. Theouldn't the rest of the GOP follow the example set by Ron DeSantis?
I believe 100%. You know, Barnum and Bailey has called and said, you know, they've got their clowns are missing, and most of them are over there at NBC. It's pretty obvious. They're attacking him. They see him as a conservative. He makes good sense. These talking points, you know. From the numbers I've seen in Florida, the black folks have been swarming to him in the polls and everything else because they know this is a bunch of lies. You know, and I've talked to several folks down there and said, you know, they need to keep this stuff up in New York because it's not holding water down in Florida, and it sure as heck isn't holding water in the South and in Tennessee, especially where I am. And it's just a complete blatant attack. Their numbers are dropping. They're dwindling. They don't understand. They want to blame it on folks like yourself, which I think is a good thing. But the reality is they're putting out a bunch of garbage, and America's just not buying it anymore.
Well, and yet they're still supported by companies like AT&T and DirecTV, oddly enough. Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.